The Bible speaks a lot about our most intimate relationships, specifically marriage and having a family. And the mystery around marriage is more profound than many give it credit for. Genesis chapter 2, and pretty much verses 18 to 25 say, "Then the Lord God said, 'It is not good that the man should be alone. I'll make a helper fit for him.' And so the Lord caused this deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and while he slept, he took one of his ribs and closed it up. And then the rib that the Lord had taken, he makes this woman, and then he brings her to the man, and then the man says, 'This at last is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man.' And then it says, 'Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh.' And the man and his wife were both naked and not ashamed." As we talked about earlier, the intimacy of a marriage is sacred and not to be shared with anyone outside of that marriage. Ephesians 5 is clear that love begins with the man loving his wife, and this love will awaken a responsive love in the woman. Ephesians goes on to say, "I tell you a mystery. I'm speaking about Christ and his bride-to-be." You know, the Bible also speaks about honoring our parents. Exodus chapter 20 talks about honoring your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And we have another promise, Ephesians chapter 6. It also speaks to this idea. "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother." We know this is the first commandment with a promise. That it may go well with you, that you may live a long time in the land. And fathers, don't provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and in the instruction of the Lord. The Bible also talks about how to raise children. So Deuteronomy chapter 6 says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children. You shall talk of them when you sit down in the house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And then write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." Pretty serious stuff. Proverbs 22 shares this powerful promise to parents raising their kids to love God. It says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." So this idea of marriage and parents and children, the marriage contract, it's not a light thing in the Bible. Marriage between a man and a woman is for life, and divorce is only an option with adultery, or some would argue, obvious abuse. Matthew chapter 5 explains, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But then Jesus says, "But I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of sexual immorality, makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery." And the Bible talks a lot about what those ingredients are for a happy marriage. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 says, "Don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers, for what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness, or light with darkness?" You know, marriage is one person loving God and the other loving themselves. That's a recipe for disaster. We fool ourselves into thinking we can be attracted to someone physically when we know deep down there's this spiritual incongruence that just won't work. And as to intimacy, after all, the primary thing about marriage that makes it different than a friendship is intimacy. And the Bible makes the case that sexual intimacy is this two-way pact, and even indulging your own sexual desires by yourself is not something God blesses. It removes the need for the other in the relationship. And 1 Corinthians 7 says, "Don't deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time so you can give yourselves to prayer, and afterwards come back together so that Satan won't be able to tempt you because of your lack of self-control." So we touch on all these elements of the lifestyle of the princess, the bride, the church, while she waits for the prince to return and practices this life of health and happiness. But the villain in our story, Lucifer, he's not sleeping. He hates marriage. He hates good health. He wants the world to be this place of sickness, but more than that, he wants to make sure as many are lost as possible. And there was no better way to do that than to turn the princess into a harlot.